For most of my life, silence had been a comfort. I craved it in the dim corridors of military outposts. I found it in the hollow stillness of desert winds, and I protected it like a treasured relic in the corners of my mind that still believed in peace. But the silence that seeped through my sister's absence was different. It was the kind of silence that clawed at you, hungry, thick, and unbearably loud. 15 days. That's how long it had been since I heard from her. No texts, no calls, no social media updates. No photos of her ridiculous backyard chickens or her son's Lego monstrosities. Just a void. At first, I chalked it up to bad reception out where she lived in Willow Creek, Oklahoma. Even the wind seemed to struggle to get through. But by day 10, excuses were like ghosts. They drifted past me, unable to hold any weight. I was stationed at Fort Ridgeline in Texas, overseeing a logistics training unit when the call came. It was just past 9 p.m., and the air smelled like rain that never arrived. I was reviewing deployment forms when my phone buzzed. Caller ID, Mrs. Evangeline Crow, the next-door neighbor. A voice from childhood, steady, kind, and as sharp as broken glass when she needed to be. "Junie," she said, her voice tight. "Something's wrong at your sister's place." I didn't ask how she knew. People like Evangeline didn't operate on hunches. She said the mail had piled up, the lights were on all night, and the chickens hadn't been fed in days. And then she said it. "There's a smell, honey." A bad one. I was gone before the sun rose. Military leave wasn't hard to get when the word family was involved. I didn't bother with details, didn't need to. My co took one look at my face and signed the forms. I packed only what I could fit in a single duffel bag, kissed the side mirror of my truck like it might bring me luck, and headed north with a half-burnt cup of gas station coffee and the taste of dread on my tongue. Willow Creek hadn't changed. It was the kind of place that looked like it had been paused since the 1970s. A single gas station, a post office the size of a living room, and a main road with more potholes than pavement. My sister's house sat at the far edge of town, where the land started to forget it belonged to people. The porch light was still on. It flickered like a dying heartbeat. I parked under the cottonwood tree and killed the engine. Everything felt off. The wind didn't move, the birds didn't sing. Even the dogs down the street, the ones that barked at their own shadows, were silent. I stepped out, hand automatically brushing against my hip where my sidearm should have been. Left it locked in the glove compartment. Regulations. The front door was ajar. That was the first punch to the gut. The second came when I pushed it open and the smell hit me. Not rot, not blood. Something else, like a mixture of bleach, damp wood, and the faint sweetness of something that had been dead too long to recognize. I hesitated for just a second before my training took over. Breath controlled, heart rate steady, eyes sharp. The living room was chaos. The couch had been upended, pillows gutted like animals, books scattered across the floor like a storm had come and gone. The photos on the wall, her wedding, Connor's first day of school, us on some forgotten beach, were shattered on the ground. I picked one up, a thin film of dust clinging to the glass. Connor's smile had always reminded me of summer. He was only 7, and now missing. I moved like I'd done clearing rooms in Kandahar, slow, precise, prepared for anything. The kitchen was worse. Cabinet doors hung loose, drawers yanked open, and the fridge door swung wide with a yellow puddle bleeding onto the floor. I found a knife under the table. Not bloodied, just dropped. Like someone had been interrupted. Then I heard it. A sound I'll never forget. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a word. It was breathing soft, erratic, barely there. Coming from down the hallway. I didn't speak, didn't want to scare whatever was hiding. I followed the sound to her bedroom. The door creaked. Inside was a battlefield. Clothes ripped. Mattress torn open. Her vanity mirror cracked down the middle like it had been punched. My throat tightened. Then came the whimper. It was from the closet. I crouched low, hand trembling as I reached for the handle. "Hey," I whispered. "It's okay." "I'm here." The door creaked open. And there he was. Connor. Curled in a ball, knees pressed to his chest, face buried in a teddy bear that looked like it had been through war. His cheeks were smeared with dirt and tears, and his lips were cracked and dry. His eyes didn't look human anymore. They looked like they'd seen something no child should ever have to see. "Connor," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's Aunt June. I'm here now." He blinked once, just once, then whispered, "Don't let him come back." I scooped him up like he was made of glass. He didn't speak again for the rest of the night. The hospital in Stillwater was small, the kind of place built for broken arms and stubborn flu, not children who had hidden in closets for days without food or sunlight. But they took Connor in without questions. Maybe it was the way I carried him, or the way he didn't make a single sound. Trauma has a weight. People can feel it, even if they don't know what to name it. They hooked him to fluids, checked his vitals, whispered things in clinical tones like malnourished, dehydrated, and psychologically compromised. I sat in the hallway under humming fluorescent lights, staring at the wall like it owed me answers. Nurses came and went. A doctor asked if I knew what had happened. I told her the truth. "I don't know, not yet." An officer arrived about an hour later, Detective Calder Merrick. Clean suit, old boots, tired eyes. He didn't speak much, just took notes while I told him everything from the call with Evangeline to the boy in the closet. He listened the way men do when they've already seen the worst, and nothing surprises them anymore. "You military?" he asked after a while. "Army, logistics, and security." He gave a single nod. "Then you understand what I'm about to say. Don't get in the way, don't go rogue. Let us do our job." I wanted to laugh. Let them do their job. My sister had vanished, her house ransacked, her son traumatized beyond language, and I was supposed to wait. Instead, I said, "I understand." He didn't believe me. Smart man. Before I left the hospital that night, I checked in on Connor. He was awake, staring at the ceiling like he could see something beyond it. The teddy bear was tucked under his arm. The nurse said he hadn't spoken since I carried him in. I sat beside him, kept my voice soft. "You're safe now, I promise." He didn't look at me, just whispered. "He came at night. He was angry. He broke Mom's phone." My hands curled into fists. "Did you see him?" He nodded. "Black jacket, scar on his chin. He smelled like gas." Gasoline. I tucked the blanket around him tighter. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." But when I said it, it sounded hollow, like a wish spoken to an empty room. The next morning, I went back to the house with Detective Merrick and his team. The street was cordoned off. Yellow tape fluttered in the wind like prayer flags for the dead. The forensics team moved through the rooms like dancers, careful not to disturb the broken chaos. The smell from the night before had faded, but I could still feel it in my bones. Merrick walked me through the scene. No sign of forced entry. Whoever came in either had a key or was let in. That was worse somehow. We found partial prints. 2 sets. One matched Lana's, the other didn't. There was a smear of blood in the kitchen, a broken chair leg, a crumpled envelope behind the couch with a note in Lana's handwriting. Only 2 words were legible. "Don't trust." The rest had been smeared into nothing. "Don't trust who?" Merrick asked. "I was hoping you'd tell me." As they dusted and swabbed, I went through her room again. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it, taped to the bottom of her dresser drawer. A small silver necklace with a compass charm. I gave it to her on the day I shipped out for my 3rd tour. "So you'll always find your way home," I had said. When I handed it to Merrick, I saw something shift in his face. Not sympathy, something closer to respect. "Your sister tried to fight," he said. "Yeah," I answered, voice breaking. "She always did." Back at the hospital, Connor was drawing with a red crayon. I sat beside him, waiting. After a while, he looked up. "She told me to hide," he said. "She kissed my head and said not to come out until it was quiet." My voice was barely a breath. "Did you hear her scream?" He nodded. Then he whispered, "She said if anything happened, I should find the river." "The river?" "She said it keeps secrets." I didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But my gut twisted in the way it always did before something bad happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in her house, alone, surrounded by broken things. I went through her planner, her notebooks, her laptop. Hidden inside a folder marked taxes, I found something strange, documents that didn't belong to her clients. They were for a business called Hollow Pine Renovations. I'd never heard of it. The invoices were huge. The dates were recent. The names, fake. One of them stood out, Reed J. Calhoun. It wasn't until I cross-checked the name with the business license database that I realized something. Reed Calhoun didn't own a renovation company. He ran a loan shark operation under the guise of home improvement. I printed everything and called Merrick. "You were right," I said. "She didn't just vanish, she was silenced." He told me to wait. Again, so I didn't. The sun was setting by the time I reached the storage lot behind the freight yard. A dozen rusting units stood like tombs, their paint flaking, doors warped with time. I didn't have a key, but I didn't need one. The lock on Unit 11 had been forced, and a trail of fresh boot prints led inside. I waited, listened, then slipped through the half-open door. The smell was immediate. Gasoline, paper, sweat. It was the kind of scent you learn to fear in war, the smell that comes before fire or death. Inside were boxes, tools, paint cans, and a safe. Its door hung open. Inside, I found what I hadn't even known I was looking for. Stacks of cash, a burner phone, a ledger. I flipped through the pages. Names, dates, threats, amounts, all tied to the loan ring, all tied to Reed J. Calhoun. Then I heard the footsteps. 2 men, one big, one twitchy. I killed my flashlight and slipped behind a shelf. "You sure he said to leave it here?" one asked. "He said he'd burn it tomorrow, just grab the book." Their footsteps drew closer. Then silence. Then the heavy breath of realization. Someone's been here. I didn't wait for them to find me. I bolted. Ran through rows of units, dodging shadows, my boots thudding like thunder against concrete. One of them shouted. The other cursed. I didn't stop until I reached my truck, hands shaking as I shoved the ledger under the seat and started the engine. The next morning, I brought it to Merrick. He didn't ask why I went alone. He didn't yell. He just stared at the pages like they were corpses and said, "We've got him." But I wasn't done. Because buried in that ledger was another name, W. Palmer. The account Lana had transferred $10,000 into just days before she vanished. Merrick ran the name through every database he had. Nothing. A ghost. That night, I went back through Lana's files, every scrap, every draft email, every voice memo. At 3:47 a.m., I found it. A draft message never sent. Addressed to a detective she'd never met. Subject line. "If something happens to me," she wrote. "Reed found out. I think they're watching me now. If I disappear, check the cabin near Bear Hollow." I buried the flash drive there. I left before dawn. The road to Bear Hollow was barely passable, just dirt, lined with gnarled oaks and memories. I reached the cabin by foot, small, crooked, forgotten. The door was cracked. Inside, there was nothing but a table, a few scattered papers, and a hole under the floorboards. That's where I found the container. Inside was the drive, and a photo, Lana, smiling with Connor, forced, fragile. I opened the flash drive on my laptop right there, sitting on the rotting steps of the cabin while the trees whispered around me. What I saw made my blood freeze. Recordings, invoices, emails, proof of money laundering, fake IDs, wire transfers across 3 states, all tied back to Hollow Pine renovations. And one video, labeled simply. Meeting 3 final in it, Lana sat across from Reed Calhoun in her kitchen. The camera was hidden, maybe in a vent. Her voice was shaking. "I'm done, Reed. You can't keep threatening my son." Reed leaned back, casual. "Then you should have paid faster." He stood, knocking over a chair. "You don't get to walk away from people like us, Lana." She said nothing, just pulled Connor close. Then the screen went dark. I sent it all to Merrick. When they brought Reed in, he didn't even flinch. "You think that's all there is?" he said with a smirk. "You don't even know who I work for." But I wasn't listening, because I'd found what I needed. He wasn't just a lone shark. He was the chain Lana had tried to break, and it had cost her everything. 2 days later, a cadaver dog uncovered her body in a shallow grave behind the freight yard, wrapped in a tarp, her silver bracelet still on her wrist. I didn't cry, not there, not then. There's a kind of grief too heavy for tears. You don't weep, you break, in silence. The trial came months later. Reed was convicted, 2nd-degree murder, obstruction, laundering, life without parole. But he never gave up W. Palmer, and maybe that was for the best. I didn't need another ghost to chase. A year passed. Connor started sleeping through the night. We moved to Phoenix, someplace warm, busy, forgetful. He called me Mom once by accident. I didn't correct him. Some days I still heard Lana's voice in my head, laughing, singing to Connor, telling me to calm down, breathe, take care of myself. I visited her grave once a month, brought flowers, a compass. Each time I whispered, "You were right, the river never stops, but I'll follow it, all the way." One day, Connor came home from school with a drawing, a river winding through mountains. At the center, two stick figures. One big, one small. "I made us," he said. "We're walking." "Where to?" I asked. He smiled. "Home."